Let's take a breath. Thank you, Marilyn. So our topic this month is everyday wonder as home. And we talked last week about the idea of home and its correlation with safety. And this morning our talk title is Roots and Wings. And all week long I've been like, roots are trees, wings are birds. Who put these together? Who did that? And then the more I contemplated it, the more it all started coming together. How perhaps they really are all related. And I did some study of botany to really understand this concept of roots. And we'll get to how all this relates to home in a little bit. Every plant starts with a seed, and when that seed literally is planted in the dark, in the unknown, in this substance called soil, it germinates, which means it rots, and it breaks open. And the root system starts with a single root, not a whole system, but one root. And that one root then begins to propagate itself, and it reaches out, and it's always going toward substance. Roots branch out, they grow to create stability for the plant and to constantly seek nourishment that feeds the plant, which then allows the plant to grow. In come birds, right? Because when a tree or a bush reaches a certain place, it invites something to make its home there, right? And a nest. And if you've ever had the joy of watching life happen from a nest to an egg to these ugly little dinosaur things that have no wings, they have no feathers, they really look like little teeny weeny aliens. I had the pleasure this year of, out where we moved to, of watching an entire brood of turkeys grow up. They started out like this, and Mama would literally step in the middle of the road and it's like she's counting them while they're all running across. And then she would look at our vehicles and dismiss us to move on. But she was not moving until her brood all got across the road, which just fascinated me. And now there's all these adolescent turkeys running all over the place, and they're still hanging together. Now, turkeys can fly, but it takes a while before they can fly. And perhaps, just like the roots take a while before we see this developed plant, this developed tree that blossoms, the exact same process is happening with birds. And at some point, they leave the nest, right? And they fly. And sometimes in that initial flight, nature can be a bit unkind, or at least it appears, because instead of flying, they just flop, right? How many times have you gotten ready to take flight only to flop, right? For us, we don't have wings, but those precious moments as babies, right? My mother-in-law used to see a baby, and she would just always beam and say, "Oh, look, it's new legs." Right? That's how she related to every baby, new legs. Right? And isn't it that same paradigm kind of follows us through life when we're taking on something new? We wobble and we have to get our balance, and sometimes we fall down. The trick is, do we get up? The trick is, okay, I left the nest. Bloop. Do I just lay there? Or do I get up? Am I willing to risk silliness to figure out how to use my wings? Am I willing to risk another fall to fly back up to my nest to try to do it again? I think that's the process of learning that we get to play with. So how does all this relate to home? Well, I want to invite us to a deeper idea of home beyond house. Because most of us think of our homes as our house, as a place, right? What if this idea of the root system, we go back to the single start, to our divine home, to the oneness of creation, to that place where everything started in mind, in consciousness. And we can only use words to talk about it. And we're using finite words to talk about an infinite being. And so let's just agree that we're always going to fall somewhat short of articulating that well. Because I personally do not know how to use finite words to accurately describe the infinite. I know what it feels like when I sense it. I know what it feels like when I bring myself in alignment with it. And then I open my mouth to tell somebody else about it, and the words just aren't there. Right? And so our journey home is perhaps one of, dare I say, new thought. That we get to have new thoughts about our idea of home. That we get to continuously recognize what it is we're thinking and go deeper. And go deeper. It doesn't mean we throw out our family. It doesn't mean we throw out spiritual community. It doesn't mean we throw out our house. It just means perhaps that we recognize these are finite ideas of how home shows up. But they're not home. There's a song Carrie Underwood did years ago, My Temporary Home. And what if we understood that this earth plane is just that? It's our temporary home. It's an assignment, if you will, where we get to journey back to that one initial root that is our home, our spiritual divinity, a clarity, if you will, about the truth of being, where there is no me and there is no you. There's just life. And we are all a cell in this one infinite body. And to really look at a root system, if you've ever seen a tree that fell over and the whole root ball is there, stop and marvel at all of the things that the roots have incorporated. Right? Tree falls over and there's little pebbles that it's just wrapped itself around. There are large boulders in those root balls that in its journey to its essence, to what sustains it, to what feeds it, to what nourishes it, the tree roots don't push the rocks out of the way. They just grow around them. They envelop them. They make them part of their system. I was like, well, there's inclusion. There's radical inclusion. Right? If you own a home and you've ever had to call a plumber because you have a tree that's root system is invading your pipes, right? It didn't, let's not incorporate the house. It's like, oh, there's nourishment in them there pipes. And it just goes right in and gets what it needs. It's not limited. That's how I want to show up in spirit. I want to just not be limited by the stuff that appears to be barriers that in the physical realm sometimes are actual barriers. Do I have enough spiritual capacity to just grow around them, to envelop them in love, and continue my journey to the nourishment of truth? I think that's what's available to us. And I don't know what it's like to be a root, but I don't imagine it's effortless. Right? I look at some of the soil compositions, and we've all seen those pictures of a plant that is growing up out of a crevice of a rock. I don't imagine that's an easy process. But I can imagine it's a natural process. It's a natural process. And so I invite you to consider, are you focused more on what's above the soil or on what's below the soil? Are you trying to grow what's above the soil without attending to the journey of your roots? There's a phrase, if you want higher consciousness, go deeper. Go deeper. And so if you want more above the surface, attend to your root system. Build your stability. Move in the direction of your nourishment. And just anything that gets in your way, wrap it in love and keep right on going. It is not our job to make a rock not be a rock. It's not our job. It's not our job. Our job is to seek that nourishment, to anchor in it, and to build our stability in spiritual practice and in truth. Let's take this into prayer. There is only one reality, one consciousness, one love, one life, one peace, one power, one presence. It is incarnating itself in, through, and as its creation. It is expanding itself, its experience of itself, in, through, and as its creation. Knowing oneness by the sense of it in my being, I know that I must be that in form. And I know that all creation must be that. In oneness, there can only be that. And so all life, all individualized expression of this one magnificent something, everything, is knowing itself, being itself as its creation. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming, accepting as reality that nourishment is always available. That we are the divine root system, seeking home of that initial root, the root of all consciousness itself, the ground of being. And that as we seek it, truth is revealed, and everything unlike that is wrapped in love and becomes part of the whole. The integrity of oneness, always transpiring itself. So grateful. So grateful to feel the resonance of truth in every cell of my physical being. And so I celebrate. I celebrate that the word spoken is the word of the infinite, moving itself into being, a movement in consciousness that cannot be stopped. A root system always seeking itself. And so I celebrate. And knowing that the word spoken is the word fulfilled, I let go. I just let it go and let life be life. And I simply step forward with my eyes, my ears, my heart wide open to experience only that. And I invite you, if the words spoken resonate with your being, that you join me in owning it as your own, as we say together. And so it is.